When does criticism of Israel amount to anti-Semitism? If it ever does. That's the question that's been asked ever since Ken Livingstone, a regular and robust critic of the state of Israel, was suspended from the Labour Party for claiming that Hitler had supported Zionism before he went mad. Zionism, of course, the movement which led to the creation of a national home for the Jewish people. This week, Mr Livingstone quoted a pamphlet from the Holocaust Memorial in Israel, Yad Vashem, in his defence. Well, Yehuda Bauer is in London at the moment. He's chair of the Yad Vashem Institute and Professor Emeritus of History and Holocaust Studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning.
Let's begin with Ken Livingstone's words, if we can, and then we'll widen our discussion. He says, Mr Livingstone, if you go to the Holocaust Memorial at Yad Vashem in Israel, one of the pamphlets they sell to tourists there is one that talks about the deal done between Hitler and the Zionists in the 1930s. So it must be true, he says.
Well, I don't want to relate to the person who said it, but to the content of the things. You see, what happened was that when the Nazis got to power, the idea was to expel or deport or in some ways get rid of all the Jews in Germany. Not only deny them citizenship, but actually expel them. So they should go anywhere possible. And that was supported by the Nazi Party. The Zionist movement at that time wanted to rescue the Jews of Germany and wanted to get as many out of there as possible. So a deal was struck in August 1933, which lasted for about 5.5 years, to export goods from Germany with the people who bought them in Germany to Palestine. This was part of an effort of German Jews to leave Germany because of the policies of the Nazi government.
But if Hitler, as it were, and other Nazis wanted Jews to move to what was going to become Israel, is it right to then say, well, he was supporting Zionism?
No, he wasn't. In fact, the Nazi Foreign Office, as anyone who studied the material knows, opposed Zionism radically when the British government supported a partition of Palestine between Arab and Jewish states in 1937, 38, 39. All German diplomats in the world got instructions to oppose any kind of a Jewish state in Palestine. There was a contradiction in the policies of the Nazis. On the one hand, they wanted to get rid of all the Jews, and on the other hand, to one of the major places where they could go at that time, they opposed the establishment of a Jewish state. In other words, They were violently anti-Zionist, but to get rid of the Jews was a priority.
Okay, but
for the Jews, this was an essential way in order to rescue people from Germany.
That's the history, as it were, and historians can debate it and discuss it.
That's a fact.
Okay, understood. But why I was putting it that way is I wanted to take you one stage further and then say, if people challenge those facts, as you call them, does that then make them anti-Semitic or, in effect, racist, rather than people who just don't understand the history properly?
Well, you see, criticism of any Israeli government's policies is certainly not anti-Semitism. If I criticize any kind of a British government, for instance, during the Thatcher period, that doesn't make me an anti-British person.
So when does it become anti-Semitism?
It becomes anti-Semitism the moment people say, well, 1948, the establishment of a Jewish state was a mistake. Mistakes have to be corrected, and the only way to correct that so-called mistake would be to annihilate Israel, which means actually that the people who advocate such views are on the verge of being genocidal, intentionally or unintentionally, genocidal propagandists.
But isn't it possible for me or anybody else to argue that I do think it was a mistake to create the state of Israel, but I might have no intention at all of wiping it off the map or of indeed persecuting the Jewish people?
No, if you oppose the policies of the present or any past or future Israeli government, whether it's towards the Palestinians or anything else, that's certainly not anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism begins the moment you say the Jews have no right to have a separate political existence as a people.
Yehuda Bauer, your talk is tonight in London. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
It's now 11 minutes to 9. The start of September is a time